Well, thank you very much, and it's Katrina, you're a hard act to follow, and I will definitely be hiding behind the podium after the people we've had out tonight. I'd like to acknowledge, obviously, my good colleague, Michaelia Cash. I'm sorry for speaking through the start of your speech. I wasn't actually speaking, I was listening, doing a lot of listening. To Richard Colbeck, who's around here somewhere. It's great to see you here, Richard, and also to Joel Fitzgibbon, who I know is down the back there, and it's the bipartisan attitude of what is agriculture is on representation tonight. I know we have so many other colleagues here tonight. I'll acknowledge you in a job lot, because otherwise that'll be my speech. When you look at women in agriculture, whether the primary labourer, the bookkeeper, the house manager, the vet, the plant operator, the researcher, the agri-politician, all these roles are interchangeable and essential, and sometimes they're done solo. My neighbour is in her 30s, and she would be the manager of over 10,000 acres of country in both farming and cattle, and they have a substantial stud, and she does an extremely good job. I'm always remark on her resilience and her good nature, and even whilst I'm away doing politics, if there's something that she needs to cast an eye over the fence or throw a gate open, it's never of a problem for her. The first thing I'd like to say about agriculture is we have a great future. We have a marvellous future. The CSIRO has stated that in the next 50 years, the world will consume as much food as it has in its history to this date. And that is a massive task. And that is a massive task that lies at our feet. And if you want to see examples of that, I can give you a couple. Did you know that last year, our live sheep exports to China increased by 12,660% for the year? We have increased into certain markets cattle exports of over 770%. Our dairy prices and what have been offered by Murray Goulburn and by Norco are at record prices. We've said that cattle prices would rise at the end of August, early September, and they are. We're at the right place, at the right time, and with the right economy to be the benefactor of this. And so if you're at the forefront of this industry, you're at the right place at the right time with a massive task to do, not only for your families, not only for yourself, but for our nation. And that tremendous legacy that is represented, will be represented here tonight, and is so formidably shown by Giovanna Webb. I would hate to see what happens if you go up to visit her and they run out of crocodiles, because I reckon she would whip a skin off any one of us and have us in a Hermes handbag as quick as you could blink. Just that absolute passion, that style, that charisma, that drive. And also I had the pleasure of sitting next to Catherine Marriott and the work that she does and her connections into Indonesia. These are people at the pointy edge of the game, that really do deliver dollars back to our economy, really do value add to what we do. And I think the best way to acknowledge some of the things that people do is to look at the other history of the great women who've been part of Australia. Elizabeth MacArthur, who came to Australia with the Second Fleet with her husband, John MacArthur, and lost a child on the passage. Elizabeth had a key role in developing the Australian wool industry, and while her husband spent much of his career engaged in duels and fighting with authorities, Elizabeth ran the farm. How typical is that? Building the family's merino wool estates. When her husband was forced to go back to England for more than a decade, Elizabeth carried on. Mary Penfold in 1850 is another great woman. One of the most important diary entries in the history of Australia was Mary's, when she said, "Today I began making wine." Married to a doctor who wanted to start a vineyard for medical purposes, some things never change, Mary took over the running of the South Australian farm, growing vines from France and blending wines in an orthodox way while her husband was away attending patients. The original property included a plot of land called Grange. That many decades later would be used to produce one of the world's greatest wine, and that is not the 1959 Grange. For anybody from New South Wales. Eliza Forlonge was a Scotswoman who in 1828-1830 walked hundreds of kilometres through the German kingdom of Saxony, securing high-quality Saxon merinos to be shipped to Britain and then to Tasmania with her two sons, William and Andrew. In all, Eliza made 3 shipments of sheep to Australia to build a breeding stock. Eliza eventually followed with her husband, establishing farms in Tasmania and Victoria. Eliza died in 1859, and a memorial to her grave is in the form of a wool bale. Or Lorna Hayter, who grew up at Currabubble, which is near me, and was one of the first women to graduate in agricultural science at Sydney University in 1921. Later, she joined the New South Wales Department of Agriculture's Better Farming train, carrying machinery and farm animals. The train would stop at each station, set up a tent, and Lorna conducted lectures on the importance of family life, leadership, and community involvement, setting a pattern for a lifelong contribution to rural Australia. She was the first female permanent professional officer of the New South Wales Department of Agriculture, and later was a broadcaster on the ABC Country Hour and the women's editor at the Land newspaper. And another one close to my heart as part of my alumni, Dame Bridget Ogilvie, who was born in Glen Innes and won the university medal at UNE in rural science, went on to Cambridge. Dame Bridget Ogilvie was known for her capacity to sit on the rail watching her father drench sheep and discern why would that drench kill that parasite and not another parasite. And we had the capacity to sit down and say, I will take my career in such a way as to find out. And where Dame Bridget Ogilvie ended up is that accomplishment, that drive, made her head of the Wellcome Trust in the UK with a vastly greater budget in health than the UK government. Now, what this means is that the people tonight, it's not a flash in the pan. This is something of a legacy. This is an officiating ceremony at a legacy, but a legacy that's been part of our nation right from its inception of coastal settlement. Women in agriculture will cause change. Women in agriculture must cause change. They'll cause change in politics, they'll cause change in markets, they'll cause change in process, they'll cause change in consumer laws, they'll cause change in media, they'll cause change in production, they'll cause change in research, and they'll cause change in development. Why will they do that? Because they can network. They can network privately, and they're extremely good at that, and we see that, and it's an indelible trait, an essential trait, and we will see it here tonight. They can network publicly. They can get the letters to the editor. They can drive agendas. In politics, you know that you basically, the team around you will most likely, in my instances, in my career, has always been women. They know what is going on. They know that money comes where money comes from, and they know how to get it. Women challenge where, as they should, the status quo. They have the energy to say yes, and they have the resilience to say no. Most importantly, what women do, which I think is vastly greater than men, is women manage to lead with grace. So I thank you very much for being here tonight. I think we now go to